One of the greatest shibboleths of Indian mindset happens to be their perception and how is it that they go on to hold their things together. How is it that now they go on to understand things they shouldn't be understanding, and some of the things that are very obvious, they go on to do away with it. Take the case of Raman, one of the wisest persons that the world has ever seen. The depiction of Ravan in Indian parties, in Indian Sanatanis, in Indian culture is that he used to be having 10 heads. It was not 10 heads. This physically not possible that a person can go on to have 10 heads. It was only that he can go to think in terms of 10 different people, and that he was killed not because of a person. It was I which killed Ravan. It was me, myself that killed Ravan. It was ego that killed Ravan. It was nothing else. And then the symbolic meaning of the victory of Ram over Ravan was, one was ego and the other was dharma. That is how it was. And these are some simple things that Indians are not able to understand it, despite the fact that being brought up in a Sanatan culture. To a large extent, this is ascribed to what is called as ego. It is ego among Indians that is responsible for holding their progress. Now, if you're going to take the case of talent, you won't going to find too many people that are going to be as talented as the Indians can be in the whole of the world. Be it a painting, be it a sculpture, be it a singing, be it creative arts, be it technology, be it a business, be it anything, you cannot go on to beat Indians anywhere in the world. Anywhere they have been an expatriate community or as an immigrant, they are the most flourishing in that region, among that community. But then, why is it not that they can go on to propel their own country towards certain type of a progress? Is it not that Indians have still not been able to make their mark despite the fact that they understand a lot of things? They understand that it was colonialism that brought India on its knees. They understand that it is Islamic invasion that was responsible for destroying the culture, the ethos, the dharma, and it was responsible for mercilessly killing. And for all of you who know that part or you don't even know that, the Islamic invasion that began all the way from 12th century was responsible for killing 80 million Hindus in India. Hold your breath. It was 80 million Hindus in India. And still they're going to turn a blind eye towards it. And what's that? What's the reason behind it? It is ego. You will understand how is it that it is going to be ego in this case. Any amount of ego is tantamount to ethical development, and that is what holds the Indians together. That is, they are able to grow, but then they are not able to go for an ethical development. In contrast, any amount of self-esteem is good for ethical and personal development, and that is what they are not able to correlate themselves with. That's largely because they are not in a position perhaps to understand the basic ethos of ego, basic ethos of self-development, self-esteem, and so on. So we come to the basic question of it. Why is it that Indians who are highly talented, they go on to lag behind? Our question goes on to be hinging around this part. That is, why is it that they go on to lag behind? That's one. Is it that despite doing anything, any government is not able to change the Indians and their behavior? You will go to understand that throughout the whole of the world, if you're going to ask people from Kenya, if you're going to ask people from Liberia, if they're going to ask people from Mexico, if they're going to ask it from Colombia, if you're going to ask people from any of these European countries, you're going to ask people anywhere in the world, maximum number of people will go on to say that they will be blessed to have someone like a Prime Minister Narendra Modi as a one person at the helm of their political and the governance system. Indians say that he is most of the Indians have shown a good amount of a hatred towards it. Is it that despite having done everything, is it that they can't be governed? Is it that Indians are ungovernable? Is it that they hold an unfounded meaning of a democracy? They want free electricity, they want free water, they want free everything, and still they want that the government should go on to do something for them, and that they can go to forgive them for a lot of other things as well. So, as we're going to say, that is, if the people in any region happen to be greedy, if they're selfish, if they're self-centered, only one type of a person can go to rule over them, and only one type of person rules over them, and that is cunning people. So is it that they all going to deserve the cunningness of a person who allows them to rule? Is it not that they just go on to think of their rights and without actually talking about their duties? That is, no government in the world will be able to do anything at all unless the citizens cooperate with it. Is it not that their attitude prevents them from coming to a logic? That is what we are talking about. Logic, or deriving a process to come to a logic. That means, has it been that they have developed a process of coming to a logic? Logic of being able to separate right and wrong. Logic of being able to separate good from bad. Logic of being able to separate genuine from fake. Is it not that the Indians going to be lacking that process of coming to a logic? And you will going to understand that part mercilessly in this case. And is it not that their ego has led to defend them, to defending something that they can't be defended, that they can't defend and that can't be defended as well? And is it not again that a lopsided meaning of, again in this case, the word secular, a lopsided meaning of the word secular has ruled India for imagine 70 years, and that is a lopsided meaning, because in the name of being secular, India has actually teased, tormented and tortured its majority of the class that has defined the identity of the country. How is it that you can go to defend that all of the religious places in India are Hindu religious places are going to be controlled by the government, and all of those places which are in the position of the Muslims or even the Christians, they are completely free, and that the obtains from temple is given to madrasas, that is given to churches, and that is given to the religious body. And is that secular? Now, that is what we are talking about. That is the lopsided meaning of secular. Is it not that has thwarted nation building and unity among Indians? The answer in this case is yes. And the only way anyone is able to rule India is by dividing Indians, and a good number of people understand it. But then their ego, of course, that is part of their character, that is preventing them from accepting it. And is it not that Indians going to follow a herd mentality? Who goes on to follow a herd mentality? Is it that people with any amount of an understanding will follow a herd mentality? No, never, never at all. But then who are the people who will go on to follow it? People who will go on to propagate it, people who will go on to germinate it, people who will go on to seed it, people who will go on to distribute it. And who will go on to do it? Only when your ego goes on to be bigger than that of the country, the people, the society, almost everything. And is it not that Indians have not evolved a process? That means they're still in the process of evolving a process. They are still in the process of evolving a mechanism of coming to a logic. And that they don't go on to be talking about logic. They don't go on to be coming to that logic as well. Now we understand there is a way to distinguish between right and wrong, true and false, and genuine and fake. And while we say so, we understand there is anywhere in any of these societies, when we try to understand the Indian mindset, whenever we're going to try to understand this part, there is a way to distinguish right and wrong, true and false. You will understand that a good amount of an ego among Indians allows them to follow a path, to allow them to take a stance, to take a stand, to take a narrative and then going to cling over it, come what may. That is, they are not going to be leaving it. That is completely beyond the comprehension of a lot of things. Take an example. In Afghanistan, it is Afghanistan that are killing Afghanistani. It is in Iraq, Iraqis are killing Iraqi. It is in Syria, Syrians are killing Syrians. It's in Pakistanis are killing Pakistanis. But then the that Islam goes on to talk about that all of the world is should be devoid of kafirs. That means those people who don't go on to follow their religion at all, and that the whole of India is made of kafirs. While in Taliban occupation, not even a single Muslim came and said against such type of a inhumane treatment that was meted out to the Afghani, their fellow brothers, their fellow Muslim brothers. But then, had the same thing happened of some sort in India, can you imagine? They would have brought about a second world war. They have tried to plunge India into a civil war. See what happened with Hamas, what happened in Israel. They were completely against Israel, and there were riots and whatnot against the Israelis throughout the whole of the world. But why is it not that this was able to take place? They are not saying anything at all against the Afghanis. Is it not? That's their job. That's their job. That is the job of the Muslims. Whatever they're going to think wrong or right, that is completely their part. But is it not that it's some type of an ego that is preventing the so-called intellectual class to come to that terms? Because they have defended it, they are not going to be retracting back at all. And that happens because they don't going to be having any type of a self-esteem. You will going to find a good number of journalists, they keep on mindlessly defending and mindlessly propagating some of those things that are happening in the Islamic world against the non-Islamic world. So while others keep saying even if certain things are wrong, they have to defend their ego, and that is the basic premise on which everything is going to be based for them. Basic premise, that is defending their ego, and they will going to be martyred only defending their ego. So as we talk about the problem in the country, that the biggest problem that the country is facing is that of a herd mentality, and a bigger is a will and willingness to understand that herd mentality. And who goes to understand, who doesn't go to understand it better? The best people who can go to understand all of those things are always going to be the aspirants for preparing for the civil services examination. And when we going to say that these are the aspirants who are preparing for the civil service examination, they understand what exactly does it go on to mean in this case. And that is what exactly is our concern also here. So ego prevents the people from being an unlearner. They are not able to unlearn some of these things. There is some of these aspects that they have known some time back. They still keep on defending that part that they have, that despite the fact that the situation has changed. So they still going to be stubborn. They still going to be hard and high-headed as well. That is, come what may, because we have talked about it, because this is what we know, we'll keep on defending it till our death. Is it not that ego? That is going to be one of these problems that the country is facing. So most of these Indians waste time to pull down the other Indians, fellow Indians, and not focusing on themselves at all. That's one. They take decisions on the basis of, and they make opinions on the basis of decisions and opinions, both of them. They make opinions and they take decisions only on the basis of perception rather than objectivity. Perception means that is, I heard something and I make an opinion without actually verifying for whether it has been correct or not, or whether it goes on to follow certain grains of and in grains of logic in this case or not. So that is, objectivity is completely missing in this case. We can make a list of a lot of questions and that can be endless. But then it does go on to cast aspersions on the attitude of our thinking. That means the thinking of the Indian people. Our interpretation of events, how is it that we're going to interpret those type of events? So that is one of them, is that their list is endless. Then we are going to be talking about attitude. Of course, we are talking about the interpretation part as well. And the processes, as we are talking about the processes, which guides a good number of people to become fickle and having a weak character. Now, if you're fickle-minded, that means today you are saying something else, tomorrow you're going to be something else, or that is, in everything, you try to defend whatever that you have said, and without any type of a logic, without any type of base in this case, that is, and of course, you're going to show an inability to overcome yourself. You show any inability to improve upon yourself. You show any inability to accept whatever may have been a mistake. You think yourself that you are next to God and that you have a demigod status also in this case here. This is ego. So, as we're going to say, that is, its reasons are that we nurse our ego more than our self-esteem. That is the basic reason behind it. All of those things happen because we are not talking about our self-esteem as much as ego. So, ego has an impact on the attitude. Ego is very, very different from that of self-esteem as well. And what is ego? Ego is this sense of superiority and certainty that exceeds the bounds of confidence and talent in general. That is, there will be certain type of innate talent with you, maybe certain type of confidence in you, and you're going to exceed that part, and that is what goes on to give you a quasi-superiority. That is ego. Ego is the self-image created by thought. That is, you have a self-image, and what hurts you is your self-image. Nothing else goes on to hurt you other than your self-image. That is, if you have a self-image that is larger than life, you can go on to get hurt by even the smallest of the things possible. Ego is a social mask, and ego is a social mask that requires a validation because it lives in the fear of losing in a sense of identity, because you can't go to create an identity. You may have created a false sense of an identity, and that is in the process of being unmasked, and that is where your ego comes into being, and then you start using your whatever intellect that you have, whatever resources you have, whatever social circle you have, to downgrade other people, to look down upon other people, and to get yourself distance from other people, and to break your social capital network as well in this case. So the self-image in this case really goes on to take a beating of sorts in this case. And this self-image is what you have created for yourself, and not exactly that is truly existing. And it is, we are talking about a social mask. That is what you're going to wear. So it's a sense of a superiority. It's a sense of a quasi-confidence. It's a sense of a quasi-talent or quasi-confidence about certain things, which doesn't going to be having any logic in this case at all. Because if you're going to be having it, you will going to stop learning. You don't learn when you have an ego. So what ego goes on to do to you? Ego blinkers your vision. You are only able to see. You are not in a position to visualize. Ego constricts your thinking. It doesn't go to allow your horizon to be widened also in this case. That is, that's what it goes on to do. So it blinkers your vision, it constricts your thinking, and of course it goes on to make you narrow-minded. Like you may have been a critic of something and you'll keep on remaining a critic despite the fact that you may have known the truth in this case. That is narrow-mindedness, and it stops our adaptability because you think that you're correct and you don't require to adapt. The whole of the world requires to adapt to you rather than you adapting to a situation or to a condition or to a concept or anything. This ego goes on to prevent observation, largely because when you go on to think in an egoistic manner, you are not able to see it objectively. Your intuitions don't go on to work at all. And not only that, it blurs your communication. That means the words that you're going to use, the type of feeling that you're going to harbor, and the type of attitude that you're going to lace in your words, that goes on to take a beating. And of course, because you have an ego, you will go into learning process will going to stop. And not only that, because you go on to be having ego, you will not be able to innovate at all. Innovation ability is going to be completely inhibited in this case. And you will go on to find that your social capital in this case goes on to be empty. Because when you start looking down on other people, you don't going to make too many of acquaintances, too many friends as well. Maybe that you can always going to defend, that is you have done something and you haven't got something in return. There are always going to be some people in this society who are going to be backstabbing you and who are in the process of backstabbing you mercilessly in this case. That is ego. Self-esteem is going to be very, very different from that of ego. It's very different in a variety of ways. For example, self-esteem is going to be about overall opinion of yourself. It is about self-understanding. If you're going to understand yourself very well, then you're likely to have a very high degree of a self-esteem. Self-esteem is how much you're going to appreciate and like yourself regardless of the circumstances. Maybe that you are down in the dumps. You are like a 500 rupee note which has got itself soiled. Is it that the value of this 500 note will go on to get downgraded? Answer is no. Absolutely no. That is self-esteem. We may be a piece of a gold, and that piece of gold may be lying on the road. Maybe it's lying in mud. Is it that the value of it will go on to get degraded? Answer is absolutely no. And if you have a self-esteem, you're always improving upon yourself, largely because you are trying to make a better version of yourself. Always, always, always. Not like you have an ego and you think that is now you have learned enough and that you don't require anything in this case. Absolutely. You only compete with yourself. That is the only one. You only compete with yourself and that you are improved to an extent that you are head and shoulders high above anyone else in this case. And when we say that you are head and shoulders high above anyone else, then you are constant fight with improving yourself, improving on your attitude, trying to improve your outlook, trying to improve your knowledge, trying to improve your skills, everything, every obstacle that you're going to find, you keep on improving upon that part. In ego, you always try to make the other person feel down. That's the best part about ego. And then prevent them from rising. What you're going to do is that you will always try to play some pranks by way of which the person will not be able to rise at all. You'll try to do it. And you're going to obstruct that part. You go on to taking an obstructionist path in this case, and to an extent, you're going to degrade them as well. You're going to try to do it as much as possible. That is what you're going to do. In self-esteem, you improve upon yourself. You don't require anyone else to be coming. You are not competing with anyone. You're competing with yourself. And you will go on to improve yourself, to put yourself beyond the comprehension and beyond the competition of anyone else in this case. So it improves your satisfaction. Of course, it contentment. That means you're always feeling satisfied that you were something different yesterday and now you have gone on to become a bit different. And it enhances your ability to know yourself, your weaknesses, your strength as well. And then you start playing upon that. Ego doesn't allow you to help you understand yourself at all in this case. In ego, you always going to try to change others because you think that is the others are the ones who are always requiring a change rather than thinking about yourself. That makes you judgmental as well. It goes on to prevent innovation, as we have talked about. It clutters your mind. Why is it that it clutters your mind? Because you are thinking about yourself. Always, always, always thinking about yourself. And it makes you think inward. Because you are not outward going, you are not thinking about the whole of the world, you are not thinking about the changes taking place anywhere, and consequently, you are not receptive to any type of a change, any type of an idea, any type of a concept, or any type of a phenomena. Self-esteem is different. It says that you control yourself, you improve yourself, you have an absolute control yourself. And anyone who controls themselves, that is absolute power. That is what called as power is. That is what is power called as rather. Self-esteem propels towards innovation. That is going to be more important and its diffusion, both of them. It also goes on to make you learner because when you're trying to improve upon yourself, you always try to imbibe new and new things. And that is what it goes on to make you adaptable and a learner as well in this case. It empties it and allows free interaction. Self-interaction empties your judgmental attitude and then you're going to interact freely. Keep on learning from everyone possible in this case. Of course, increases your receptivity. The greater is the amount of receptivity, the greater is the amount of self-improvement as well. And then you are friend of the whole of the world. You are one of those persons who can go on to be the darling of the entire of the region also. Ego is actually a weakness. It's a weakness. And if you have a weakness, there is no way that you can go on to grow. And if it is that you have a weakness and also you have an ego, then ego will go on to prevent you from letting someone know your weakness. Otherwise, you will be always open and always open to getting it corrected as well. And then if someone goes on to correct you and you feel offended, what you do? You stop. you stop learning from that person. That is, when you correct a fool, a person becomes an enemy of you for your lifetime. When you correct a wise person, he goes on to become a friend for you for the whole of the life. So the weak are dominated by their ego, and of course the wise, the wise dominate their ego, because you know that there is a person who is having an ego. It's so easy to make a fool of themselves. You just have to manage their ego. That is going to be so simple. So wise people, what they're going to do? They're going to become a tool in the hands of the wise people. The best part about ego is the more you go on to gain, the more you lose. It's one of these examinations that you're going to win in ego war, and you're going to lose everything. And it's the only game where the loser is the winner. That means unless you happen to lose your ego, there is no way that you can go to win it as well. Self-esteem is a strength. That's what we talk about. It helps you constantly to keep abreast of your understanding, self-understanding, because you keep on evolving, keep on understanding yourself, keep on getting to know yourself, because you are also evolving. And if you have stopped evolving, it's because of ego. It adds to your overall well-being as well. That means your mental well-being, how good you are, how good are you improving, to what extent are you taking care of your potential, and to what extent are you creating gateways for yourself as well. That is part of a self-esteem. A person with a high self-esteem keeps on creating opportunities for themselves, and they keep on creating such type of an opportunity here, there, and everywhere. And you understand it. Being ethical, we're going to talk that ego prevents the process of coming to a right decision. So people who are egoistic, they don't want to take a right decision because their understanding is going to be completely blinkered in this case. Ego understands the meaning of ethics. You know that what is right or wrong in this case, but it also prevents the acceptance of it. And this acceptance is going to be the most important of the plank. Unable to accept that you have done anything wrong, you always keep on being in that groove. And being ethical always propels to have an overcoming ability, always goes on to help you improve upon yourself, and you're always going to be constantly improving on that count. Being ethical also goes on to mean that you have a self-understanding, you have an ability and willingness to reform as well. While when you are going to be having a camouflaging intent, and camouflaging intent makes it clear that it is going to be agenda-driven. People will going to have an ego, and they will going to have a camouflaging intent because they cannot go on to be transparent. And why is it not that they can go on to be transparent? Because they are dualistic personalities. And because they are dualistic personality, one is going to be for the presentation in front of the people, and another is what they are going to be living in themselves. That is what goes on to make it agenda-driven. And they use a shield of a differential response. Differential response, that means to a similar type of a situation. Take the case of secularism in India. Secularism in India goes on to be drawing a differential response from the people. While some people go on to say to a same set of circumstances that this is a secular, and to a similar set of circumstances when it applies to, let's say, Sanatan, they will go to say it's communal. That is, they have for the same set of conditions, they have two words. They have a differential response, and that is completely unethical in this case. And of course, we talked about in the beginning itself, it is this unethical component that is responsible for holding the progress of the country, holding the unity of the country, and they have an intent of not allowing the people to gel up together as well. These are the people, that means when you're going to be unethical, what you do, you use a hatred to influence public opinion. That is, using hatred to influence public opinion, and when you use hatred to influence public opinion, it satisfies your ego. You do it because you're blinded by your ego. You do it despite the fact that you know that it is unethical. You do it because you're compelled by yourself. You do it because you are sick. This is what ego does to you. This is why we call that having an ego is one of the most unethical things that you can have. And this is why we say that good number of people in India who have an ego, that is against nation, that is against India, and that is against the very notion of our country that is called as Bharat.